Moving on to thyroid and antithyroid drugs. So basically the thyroid gland secretes T3, T4 and calcitonin. So the follicular thyroid cells, they have specialized mechanism for synthesis of thyroid hormones. This is regulated by TSH secreted by the anterior pituitary, which in turn is inhibited by free thyroid hormone levels. So hypothalamus secretes thyrotropin releasing hormone, which stimulates the anterior pituitary to release TSH, which stimulates the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. And then these have a negative feedback control. So the deficiency of thyroid hormones causes cretinism in children and myxoedema in adults. Okay, and cretinism is characterized by mental retardation and other features of hypothyroidism. Hypersecretion of T3, T4 has effects on various organ systems, resulting in thyrotoxicosis. Moving on to the symptomatic features of hyper and hypothyroidism. So hyperthyroidism, you can remember it like this. So basically the BMR is increased, obviously, and hyperthyroidism, they kind of have hyperglycemia. So hyperthyroidism, your cells are working more, so they need glucose more, right? So there is hyperglycemia, but at the same time there is decreased fat and decreased protein, so negative nitrogen balance and wasting. Okay, because of wasting of muscle proteins itself, you get weakening of extraocular muscles and protrusion of the eyeball. Okay, okay, then what else? So cardiovascular system, obviously there is increased heart rate. So remember hyperthyroidism like this: there is anger, there is hunger, and there is anxiety. Anxiety, hunger and anger. Okay, so anger, so obviously there is increased heart rate, increased cardiac output, all that, high output cardiac failure, arrhythmias, angina, etc. CNS, there is anxiety. Musculoskeletal system, so there is also weakness. Okay, anxiety, weakness, anger, hunger, and at the same time there is anemia. Okay, so anemia and also menstrual irregularities. Then you have eyes and face cell attraction, periorbital edema and exophthalmos due to wasting of the muscle proteins, and skin and appendages. There is heat intolerance in hyperthyroidism, whereas in hypothyroidism there is decreased BMR. Okay, exact opposite. There is increased fat and proteins and decreased sugar. Okay, next you have decreased heart rate and all this. You have lethargy and mental retardation. You have stiffness and muscle fatigue. Okay, and then there is decreased appetite. Okay, same, all these things. But myxoedema, there is puffy face and a large tongue. Okay, and cold intolerance. So how about the synthesis of thyroid hormones? Basically what happens is, so first you have iodine, which is taken into the cell. Okay, if this is the thyroid gland, you have cells here, you have the lumen. Okay, so basically it is taken into the cell by sodium iodide symporter, and then it is sent here into the lumen. In the lumen, what happens is, this iodine, it is oxidized, first peroxidation to I2, then I2 is added, so there is organification of the tyrosine residues. Okay, so thyrine, and then finally there is coupling. So MIT plus DIT gives you triiodothyronine, and DIT plus DIT gives you tetraiodothyronine. Okay, so that is what happens. Next, finally, after the coupling is done, then it is released. So this release process involves endocytosis and proteolysis of iodinated thyroglobulin and results in release of T4, T3, MIT and DIT. And then see, mostly what is released is T4, but T3 is reactive. Okay, T3 is reactive, it has a shorter half-life and it is more potent. So basically T3 needs to act at the receptor level. So T4 is peripherally converted into T3 in the tissues by 5' deiodinase enzyme. Okay, so peripheral conversion is inhibited by propylthiouracil, propranolol, and also glucocorticoids and iopanoic acid. So basically differences between T3 and T4, it is formed by DIT plus MIT and DIT plus DIT. Then T3 is faster onset of rapid onset, more reactive, more potent, short duration of action, and it is useful to treat only myxoedema coma. That is the only indication. But for myxoedema coma also, the drug of choice is T4. Next, mechanism of action, basically T3 and T4, they enter the cells. It is converted into T3, it combines with the nuclear receptor, it activates genes and synthesizes proteins which have diverse effects. So preparations, you have T4, so levothyroxine sodium, and T3 leothyronine. So levothyroxine sodium, you have tablets and parenteral IV, and leothyronine you only have oral. Combination, so you have 4:1 tablets of T4 and T3. Therapeutic uses, so basically in cretinism, treatment of newborn should be started as early as possible after birth to ensure normal growth and cognitive development. So start treatment immediately. So in elderly and patients with CAD, basically you start with a low dose of 12.5 to 25 micrograms per day, and then you slowly increase it to prevent the precipitation of ischemia and MI. In young adults, you can replace it fully. So full replacement doses of levothyroxine sodium can be administered. So 12.25 into 2 is 25, into 2 is 50, into 2 is 100. So 50 to 100 mcg daily as a single dose in the morning on an empty stomach. The goal of therapy is to relieve symptoms and restore serum TSH to normal levels. Next, myxoedema. Myxoedema is a medical emergency. It is common in long-standing untreated myxoedema cases. So it is precipitated by infection or other stresses. So diagnosis, basically you look at the clinical features itself before looking at the TSH levels for diagnosis. Okay, so what are the clinical features? There is hypothermia, slowing of heart, slowing of temperature. So hypothermia, pleural effusion and pericardial effusion with coma. So edema, right? So effusions are there. So there is history of previous thyroid surgery. So there is no thyroid gland to synthesize the hormone. So replacement therapy with poor compliance. Okay, so that is what's happening. So first, treatment. See, it is an emergency condition, right? So you give IV hydrocortisone or IV steroid. Okay, then you obviously give IV levothyroxine intravenously, so T4. Okay, because emergency. So IV levothyroxine, IV hydrocortisone. Then you correct the hypothermia by warming the patient. You correct the hyponatremia by giving electrolyte imbalance. You correct that. You provide ventilatory support if it is required, and antibiotics if the precipitating infection is severe. Okay, so benign thyroid nodules, you can use some therapy with T4, obviously, and thyroid carcinoma. So thyroid hormone suppression therapy is used in papillary carcinoma to suppress TSH. Then anti-thyroid drugs. So basically, in the steps that we have mentioned, there are 5 places where anti-thyroid drugs can work. So first is the uptake through the sodium iodide symporter. You can cancel that by preventing trapping. So you have thiocyanates and perchlorates. Okay, next, after it is entering into the cell, all the other steps are catalyzed by the enzyme thyroid peroxidase. Okay, so TPA. You can use thyroid peroxidase inhibitors. So you have propylthiouracil, methimazole, and carbimazole. So carbimazole is converted to methimazole, which is the active form. Okay, and then you have hormone release inhibitors. So you can use iodine, Wolff-Chaikoff effect. You can shrink the gland, you can reduce the vascularity, and you can make it hard. Okay, and you can prevent the release of the iodides into the blood, hormones into the blood, and you can also destroy the thyroid tissue by using radioactive iodine. And also you can use propranolol, atenolol, and other beta blockers to reduce the sympathetic harmful effects of excessive thyroid secretion. So thioamides, starting with propylthiouracil, methimazole, and carbimazole. So basically, mechanism of action of thioamides. So propylthiouracil, methimazole, and carbimazole. So it inhibits the TPA and all thyroid peroxidase enzyme, and it also prevents iodination and coupling of iodothyroxines. Okay, so it prevents the iodination, it prevents the coupling, all the steps inside the colloid. Okay, and it also inhibits the peripheral deiodination. So propylthiouracil, only peripheral deiodination is prevented. Next, pharmacokinetics. First thing is you give them orally. Okay, propylthiouracil is most rapidly absorbed, and if you are sitting in a car, you take time to sit, right? You are comfortable. So it is converted into methimazole. So that is why it takes time for acting. So remember, propylthiouracil, P, it is less potent. Plasma binding is more. Okay, P for potency is less. Plasma binding is more. Next, it has a shorter proper time. So duration of action is shorter because it is not converted to the active form, right? So no active metabolite, it is converted to methimazole in case of carbimazole. And then it also inhibits peripheral conversion, again P, and there is no negligible peripheral conversion action. And also propylthiouracil is safer in pregnancy. Okay, so that is why passage across the placenta is low and levels in breast milk are low. Okay, so they cross the placental barrier, which can cause fetal hypothyroidism, but propylthiouracil, it is crossing it less compared to other drugs. Next, it is preferred to carbimazole for treatment of hyperthyroidism during first trimester of pregnancy. Okay, next, adverse effects. Skin rashes are the most common. Okay, the other side effects are joint pain, fever, sore throat, etc., which are symptoms of agranulocytosis. And the dangerous but rare effect is agranulocytosis. So antithyroid amides, they cause agranulocytosis. Okay, so this occurs during first few weeks or months with therapy, but it is rapid in onset. So even if you take gradual blood tests, you may not find it. So the drug should be stopped within the first sign of agranulocytosis, which is sore throat and fever, and propylthiouracil hepatotoxicity can occur. So that is why in long-standing cases you use only methimazole or carbimazole. Next, for long-term treatment of hyperthyroidism due to Graves' disease or toxic nodular goiter, you use carbimazole or methimazole because they are not hepatotoxic and long-acting. And then pre-op patients, you use carbimazole again. Along with radioactive iodine in pre-op patients, you use carbimazole. And for treatment of thyrotoxic crisis, you use propylthiouracil along with iodine and propranolol because it is rapid acting in the crisis. Okay, then anion inhibitors, you have thiocyanates, perchlorates, and other anions. So iodine, so they block the uptake of iodine by the thyroid. But they are at the same time highly toxic. Next, iodine and iodides, they are the oldest agents used to treat hyperthyroidism. They have a paradoxical effect on thyroid hormone synthesis when given in therapeutic doses. Major mechanism is inhibition of hormone release, thyroid constipation by Wolff-Chaikoff effect. So it rapidly inhibits the iodination and release of iodines. Okay, it shrinks the gland, reduces the vascularity, and makes it hard. So before surgery, you give iodine. So preparation, you have lugolcidine, 5% iodine and 10% Ki. Then you have epotate sodium and epoenoic acid. So they say API, right? So they are used before surgery, orally pre-op before thyroidectomy and in thyroid storm. Okay, next, as an expectorant, you use potassium iodide. As an antiseptic, you use iodine tincture. And prophylaxis of endemic goiter, you use iodized salt. So adverse effects. So suddenly, you get angioedema, laryngeal edema, and also eosinophilia, so which is type 3 hypersensitivity. And chronic overdose results in iodism. So there is swelling, irritation of eyes with swelling of eyelids, sometimes pulmonary edema, sneezing, headache, etc. So if you stop iodine, after a few days, it will resolve. Next, use of iodines during pregnancy may cause fetal goiter. Then radioactive iodine, the half-life is 8 days. Iodine 131 is used. So sodium iodide is used for diagnostic scan. So basically, radioactive iodine, it is better compared to other chemotherapeutic drugs, okay, because it is concentrated in the thyroid, in the center of the thyroid, and it also emits beta particles, which are less penetrating into other tissues. So it leads to the beta particles destroy the follicular cells, leading to fibrosis and correct the hyperthyroid state. So I-131 is used as solution or capsule, so you can obviously administer it in the OPD. Okay, so it is used for treatment of hyperthyroidism due to toxic nodular goiter or Graves' disease. In grave conditions, you use radioactive iodine. Okay, it is also used in hyperthyroidism due to cancer like adenoma or carcinoma when surgery is not feasible or contraindicated. But however, you can't use radioactive agents in pregnancy. So in children in pregnancy and nursing mothers, you don't give that. So advantages, the treatment is simple. It does not require hospitalization. It can be done in OPD. And low cost, no risk of surgery and scar, and permanently cures hyperthyroidism. But at the same time, it is slow acting and causes local soreness in the neck. So that is why along with radioactive iodine, you give carbimazole because radioactive iodine is very slow in action. Next, finally, disadvantages, obviously not suitable in pregnancy, children, etc. And then beta blockers, you use propranolol, atenolol, and metoprolol because they have an inhibitory effect on peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. Okay, so they produce dramatic improvement in symptoms of thyrotoxicosis like tachycardia, palpitation, and tremors because all the sympathetic effects are caused, and you can use propranolol to reverse that. And in thyrotoxic crisis, basically you use them pre or before thyroid surgery. So thyrotoxic crisis, basically what happens is it is a manifestation of severe hypermetabolic state due to very high levels of circulating thyroid hormones. There is hyperpyrexia, cardiac arrhythmias, nausea, vomiting, mental confusion, etc. Okay, it is precipitated by infections, traumas, other stresses like DKA, etc. So treatment is hospitalization. Then first propranolol 1 to 2 mg IV slowly every 4 hours. And then oral propranolol 40 to mg 80 every 6 hours. Then you have propylthiouracil, which is administered via nasogastric tube. So first give propranolol, then propylthiouracil. Okay, because it is rapid acting. And then sodium epotate, API. So it is given orally, half gram orally. So it inhibits the release of thyroid, so apastity, and then you can use diltiazem if propranolol is contraindicated. And then because it is an emergency crisis, again IV hydrocortisone 100 mg every 8 hours. It inhibits the peripheral conversion again.